Hey guys, so in today's video we're going to be working with sine law, and in the next video, or perhaps the video after, we will be working with cosine law. Okay, so we explored what sine law and cosine law are in our previous videos, and now we're going to be trying to do a question with them. So just in case you've forgotten, you can write sine law like this. So you can write it as side A divided by sine of the angle A is equal to the length of side B divided by sine of the angle B, and so on for C. Or you can flip this around for every term and write it as sine A over the angle A, and so on. Same for B and same for C. Alright, so this is the formula that you will use. If I ask you to work with sine law, you'll be provided with this formula, and basically you just need to figure out which numbers you have to plug in where. Alright, so basically you're going to have a triangle, something like this. You can sketch out this triangle in your notebooks. So basically you've got three sides, three angles, but none of these angles are 90 degrees. So it might look like it's just about 90 degrees, or fairly close to it, but this is not supposed to be 90 degrees. So I've taken a question from online that has a worked solution so that I don't have any weird numbers in my answer, and we're going to try and work through this together. So basically for any question with sine law, you're going to have three sides and three angles. Alright, so you're always going to have angles capital A, capital B, and capital C. That's sort of the convention, and then the sides are lowercase a, lowercase b, and lowercase c. And if you notice, if for any triangle, if you have an angle over here called angle D, capital D, then the side that's not made up from those two sides that make up the angle is the one that gets the name little d. So if you see, this angle right here is made up from this side and this side. So neither of those sides is going to be named small d. It'll be the last side in the triangle, the one that's farthest away from the angle with the corresponding name. Okay, so that's how you're going to label all your triangles if you're working with sine and cosine law. So we've got a triangle like this, and in this question we've been provided with a little bit of information. Alright, so we have been told for this question, you can write this information down, we've been told that angle A, right here, this angle on the inside, angle A measures to be 106 degrees. Okay? So angle A, this is 106 degrees, and angle B, right up here, is 31 degrees. Now, if you've studied this kind of thing before, you might see, or you might also see in textbooks, if you've looked in a textbook that covers this before, you might see this kind of a symbol in front. That just means angle, angle B. So you could write that in. I'm not writing it in only because you can see that I've labeled the angles with the capital letters in the diagram. If there was no diagram, then maybe it would be better to say angle A and angle B. But if you have the diagram, then there's no need to do that. Okay, so we know that angle A is 106 degrees, and we know that angle B is 31 degrees, and we've also been told that the length of side A is equal to 10 centimeters. Okay, so these are the three pieces of information that we have been given. We know angle A, angle B, and the length of side A right up here. Okay, so we know this is 10 centimeters, 106 degrees, and 31 degrees. Now, the question says, solve the triangle. So what that means is, if you're trying to solve a triangle, that means you have to basically figure out all the information that you're missing. So we need to figure out little b, little c, and also big C. Alright, so we need to figure out angle C. We don't know what that is yet. And then we need to figure out the length of side B and the length of side C. Okay, so that's what we're working with here. So our first step the easiest thing to do is actually to figure out angle C. Alright, we don't have any information on angle or side C yet, so the easiest thing actually is to figure out angle C first. And the reason for that is that over here we have been provided with these two pieces of information. We know that angle A is 106 and angle B is 31, but we also know that the sum of all the angles inside a triangle should be 180. Right? We know A plus B plus C is going to be 180 degrees. So we know A is 106 and we know B is 31. So altogether those two make up 137. So 137 plus angle C is going to equal 180. Okay, so from this point it's fairly easy to solve. Basically you need to figure out what you need to add to 137 to get an answer of 180. And the way you can do that is by subtracting 137 from both sides. And what that leaves you with is C by itself on the left side equals 180 minus 137, which, if you work it out, should come out to 43 degrees. Okay, so that's what we have. We have that angle C is 43 degrees. So great, we know that piece of information. We know angle A. I'm just going to make a note up here of what we know. We're given angle A, we were given angle B, and we've figured out angle C. Alright, now little a, little b, and little c are all that's left, and we've been given little a as well. So we just need to figure out little b and little c. So side B and side C. Okay, so we know angle C is 43 degrees. Now, let's try to solve for the side angle B. We'll try and figure out what this value down here is. Alright, the side length of B. Okay, so we can use sine law for this. We don't need to use all three chunks, we can just use these two chunks right here, because we know the angle A, and we know the side length A. We know all the information to turn this fraction into just a number. Okay, and over here we know angle B. So the only piece of information that we're missing is the length of side B. So A, side A, is 10 centimeters over sine of 106, did I say? Yes, 106. Sine of 106 degrees. So 10 divided by sine 106. This right here, sine of 106, is just a number. Sine of whatever is just a number. Okay, so 10 divided by some number, I don't know exactly what it is because I don't have a calculator on me. It's not going to be a simple fraction. So 10 divided by this number equals the length of side B divided by sine of angle B, which was 31 degrees. Okay, so we've got 10 divided by sine 106 equals B divided by sine of 31, and this right here and this right here are just some numbers. Okay, now to simplify this, you don't want B divided by something, you want just B. So to get that answer, you multiply both sides by sine of 31. I'm going to have to write this up here, so it's going to be 10 times sine 31. And so what that lets you do is this sine 31 at the bottom cancels with that sine 31 over there. And what you're left with is that small b equals 10 times sine of 31 degrees, which is just some number, divided by, divided by sine of 106 degrees. Okay, And all of that is just a number. Now, I don't know the number off the top of my head because they're not the nicest angles. I know sine of 30, and so I could make an approximation, but here's where you can pull out your calculator. And basically here, in your calculator, you just write 10 times the sine button, SIN, and then in brackets write 31, divided by, close bracket, divided by, hit the sine button, and in brackets write 106, close bracket, and hit equals. And it should give you an answer that I believe comes out to approximately 5.4. Okay, 5.4 units, 5.4 centimeters in this case. Okay, so now we know side B is 5.4. Alright, so basically you take this, you have three pieces of information. You have little a, you have sine of big A because you know what big A is, so you can just plug this bit right here into your calculator to get a number for it, and you have angle B, so you can plug that into your calculator to get sine of B, and then you just have a number over a number, so some fraction equals B divided by some number. So if you take this number and you just chuck it over onto the other side, instead of dividing, you multiply it, and basically you get A multiplied by sine of B, right? We had the length of A, the sine of angle B, divided by the sine of angle A, and that gives you the side length of B down here. Okay, so that's all the information you need to figure out the length of side B. Now for C, you actually have two options. You can either use A and sine A, or you can use B and sine B, because you have one piece of information out of these two, right? You have one piece of information here. You know angle C because we figured it out, but we don't yet have side C. That's the last thing we need to solve. Okay? So what I suggest you do in this type of situation is use A and sine A for this question in particular, because we were given all the information for this in the question. This one we've sort of approximated a little bit. We put stuff in our calculator, and if we made a mistake, then this answer would be wrong. So try not to depend on your own answer. Depend on the stuff that was given to you in the question. So we'll use this piece of information, and we need that over there. So we have A over sine A equals C over sine C. Okay? Now, again, we know all of this information over here on the left side. We know little a is 10, and angle A is 106, so we write sine 106. Your calculator might be good enough that you, actually no, for your calculator it's always best to put brackets. Some calculators, if you have a scientific calculator, they might be okay with you not putting brackets. It's good practice to put brackets both in your writing and in your calculator, especially in your calculator, but it's not a must. Okay, so we've got 10 divided by sine of 106, which is some number, equals the length of side C divided by sine of the angle C, which we found earlier to be 43 degrees. Right? So we had 106 degrees there and 43 degrees there. Now sine of 43 degrees is also going to be just some number. So with this information, we know that this is just some number over here, 10 divided by sine of 106, and we have just some number over there, C divided by something. So that something, sine of 43, we just multiply both sides by sine of 43, and that allows us to cancel this out on the right side. So the sine 43 at the bottom and the sine 43 at the top cancel. And what that leaves us with is, if I get rid of this, that leaves us with 10 multiplied by sine 43. 10 multiplied by sine of 43 degrees divided by sine of 106 degrees. equals small c, the length of side c. Alright, and if you just plug that into your calculator, 10 times, hit the sine button, 43, divided by, hit the sine button, 106, that should give you small c. Now some calculators don't like hitting the sine button first. If your calculator doesn't display the word SIN on the display, then you should, and if it doesn't work, if it complains that you hit the multiplication sign and then the sine button, then what you can try doing instead is type in 43 and then hit the sine button afterwards. So it'll give you the sign of the number that you'd written just before it. So you have 43, hit the sine button, it'll give you sine of 43 degrees, and then multiply that by 10. Okay? So this is how this whole thing works, and if you do the math, I'm trusting the answer here is 7.1 centimeters approximately. Okay, so that means we've figured out everything. We were given A and B, we were given angles A and B, and we were given side A. We figured out angle C was 43 degrees, side B was 5.4 centimeters, and side C was 7.1 centimeters. Now if you look at the diagram, if this right here is 10, side A is 10, then it's reasonable that this side B right here is significantly shorter, assuming you've drawn your diagram roughly to scale. So that's why this one is close to a 90-degree angle, but not quite, because this angle is 106. So if you try to draw your diagram accurately, then you can actually check your answers against the diagram and see if they make sense. So with this being a bit shorter than side A, but still significantly longer than side B, roughly this makes sense. Now the diagram isn't perfect, I didn't measure the angles precisely, and I didn't draw it with a ruler, so it's not going to be perfect, but I can use this to tell if I'm close. If I'd gotten an answer of B equals 12, then I can see from my diagram that either I drew the diagram horribly wrong, or I've done my math wrong somewhere. Okay, so this is how Sine Law works, and I'm not going to ask any questions more difficult than this, just finding these various pieces of information on a triangle on your exam. So if this all makes sense, then in the next video we will move on to Cosine Law, and if it doesn't make sense, let me know somehow and I will clarify.